Hey, what's going on, folks? It's Mike here, and welcome back to my deep programming language series. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about doing parallelism with the map function. So map should be familiar, but we'll do a quick review, and then we'll go ahead and look at how to use map using the built-in parallel primitives available in the task pool. So with that said, let's go ahead and do a quick review here. Now, map, if you're not familiar with, we covered this way early in this series. So you can go ahead and do a search towards the first episodes, but I'll go ahead and do an example here. And I'm going to go ahead and do an example with what we call a random access range. That would be something like an array. So let's just go ahead and label these indices. Let's say we have some values here. I don't know, we'll just give this a values for its name here. And maybe let's just put in some random values here, 13, 5, something like that, okay? And the basic idea is if we have some function that we want to map on here, and let's go ahead and use the function we've been using in a few videos here. Let's just say we have something like multiply by 2. It'll take in a input parameter, int x, and basically do x times 2 as our return value. Okay, so if I do map, basically what the map function does is I would write something like map, and this is a templated function in D, the function name, multiply by 2, and then the range provided here. So this is our values, okay? And again, basically what this is doing here is it's applying one at a time this multiply 2 function to each of the things in this range here, or again, this array we can think of. Now, basically, so it'll step through one at a time, and as we need these results, perform multiply on each of the values in the provided range. And we call this a lazy function. So we can also do this in parallel where we lazily evaluate using multiple threads each of these individual values. And there's different ways that we can do the computation here. If you remember when we did or learned about map early on, if we did something like dot array, that would force the eager evaluation. So for instance, if we were saving these in some results array here, then we would, well, perform all the operations or return from the map function once we have walked through our entire range. Okay. Now, again, sometimes we might want to do that, and sometimes we say if we have an infinite sequence or something larger than this range here, that just continues on and on and on, like we're reading data from a file that's streaming in information, then we might not want to do that. Okay, that would be something like what we call an input range too. So that, again, there's different types of ranges that we can work with. So anyways, that's just a little bit of a review of map. I think if we look at a code sample, I think that will help us here. So let's just kind of dive into that. Of course, you can check out course.mshow.io and search through on the D series for map if you're not familiar. But let's go ahead and just keep our help up here. And let's go to, actually, let's just start with the map example. Just a basic one, sort of like what we had in our example. So I'm just going to create something like values. And let's just go ahead and give ourselves, you know, a few different values to play around with, something like that. If you want, you could use the iota function to generate this, but just give yourself a little bit of test data. And then again, just to review our map function, let's go ahead and let's write that function, the multiply by 2, and then we need our input. We'll return x times 2, and let's actually write out as well here. We've been doing this before. 2 times whatever the value is, and let's actually store that. So do x there and 2 times x. All right, and we've also been, just to slow things down a little bit, we've been using these thread sleep from core thread here, and then the duration, 1 second here. And again, just so we can kind of see this program executing. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is use the map function. So let's go ahead and do something like, let's store our results here. I'll do map. Again, this is a template function. Provide the function that we are going to use here. And then the input, which is values here. And let's go ahead and see what happens if we run this here. Let's see here. Oops, multiply 2. Make sure we don't have any other syntax errors. And, you know, nothing available here. But let's go ahead and let's write out our results now and see how this functions here. And this input's going to be a little bit interesting. You know, we're seeing 2, 4, 6, because what's actually happening here is with a write line, we're writing out our results. And, this is really, it's really kind of messy here. In fact, I think I put this extra end line here, so let's clean this up just a little bit. What's happening is only as I need the results am I actually doing the computation here, right? Because again, map is what we call a lazy function. And again, putting in that 1 second delay helps us sort of understand this, how this is working. So you can kind of see the results mixed with, well, we're just writing to standard out within those results. So this gets kind of messy here. If I comment out here, the actual computation we're doing, then you'll see eventually, let's actually see if we eventually get the results here. Yeah, there we go. So, I mean, you might have to wait 10 seconds for this, but yeah, eventually we get the results here. So anyways, this is kind of interesting how this works here. So basically, when I'm doing the write line, or when I actually need the result, then we do the computation again. So that's just a little reminder of what lazy is. So what if I want to do this eagerly, let's say here. So, again, just to remind you of the behavior we have, and I put back our printout statement just so you can see the sort of lazy evaluation happening here. But again, it's being mixed with the write line, so sorry, that's a little bit messy there. What if I wanted to eagerly evaluate this? Well, basically, anytime we have some sort of like function or range here, we could say .array, and that'll basically store it here. So let's see what that does here to our results here. I mean, now we're actually seeing the computations happening. And then when we write out results here, which is going to be in an array here, then we actually get things written out. And this is kind of what we would expect, right? This is, if I was writing this program, I'd say, yeah, that's kind of what I want, right? I want to print out the results. I don't want these text interleaved, certainly, okay? So that's the eager evaluation. So map is a lazy function. We can force eager evaluation with array. Okay, so something like that here, just so we have some idea of what's going on. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take this to the parallel world. So let's go into the documentation, the library reference. We need to look at parallelism. There it is. And basically under task pool, you'll see that we have a map. And we also have map as well. So let's go ahead and just open these up here or go to them. Let's start with map here. So when I want to do things in parallel, it's kind of interesting. So it's a semi-lazy parallel map can be used for pipelining. Okay, so the map functions are evaluated for the buffer size. So basically what we're going to do here is figure out how many chunks of elements we want to evaluate. So again, when we were doing map, we were doing these one by one. We'd evaluate 1, multiply it by 2, evaluate 2, multiply it by 2. But since we want to do this in parallel, basically what we can do is say I'm going to take 1, 2, and 3. That's what this next parameter is, the buffer size here, and basically take each of those elements. Okay, so like 3 at a time. So here, let's just go ahead and put the serial code demonstration. Something like this here, just so we can see in the comments. And let's go ahead and do the parallel version. Okay, so again, I'm going to be using task pool.map this time in my implementation. And again, similar signature. It's a template argument. I want to use multiply 2 here. I can pass in values. And let's just see what happens here. Let's just go ahead and do, again, auto results 2 or something like that here. And let's write out results 2. And let's try this out here. Okay, so it's thinking, and it finishes here. Now, what was kind of interesting is it kind of did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at a time here. But we could hopefully see this was faster, right? Because this is, again, using a task pool versus, again, our serial evaluation. We waited for one thing for a second to compute, another thing for a second, another thing, and so on and so forth. But this is certainly much faster here, okay? Now, we could play around with some of these parameters here. Like, let's say if I put in 2 here for the buffer size, I get 2 elements here, and then it just kind of stops. It says results 2. Now why does it kind of stop? Well, again, it's got this word lazy here, so it's just doing the computation, but we don't need the results. I mean, there's nowhere here where we need the results here. So my question is, how can I sort of force the results or force an evaluation here? Well, I could have some maybe for each loop for each of the elements, and let's do this for each of our results here, because we want to store things. So I want to iterate through everything, and let's just see what happens here if we execute this block here. Okay, now all of a sudden, hey, I'm getting the actual computation here, which is kind of interesting. Why? Well, what's for each doing? Well, if I read a little bit further, the map functions are evaluated for the first buffer size. Okay, so maybe the first time we were running, the default buffer size was 100, so that was very large. So it just evaluates everything, in these sort of blocks of 100 here. Okay. Okay, so maybe we got lucky that time. And they're stored in a buffer and made available to pop front. Okay. Meanwhile, in the background, a second buffer of the same size is filled. When the first buffer is exhausted, it is swapped with the second buffer and filled. While the values from what was originally the second buffer are read. Okay. So this implementation allows for elements to be written to the buffer without the need for atomic operations or synchronization. Okay. So we actually use more space. It seems like here, where we allocate a bunch of space where we can write to and kind of do this swap. It's almost like a double buffering trick here. And then it goes on to say map has more overhead than the simple procedure used by AMAP, but avoids the need to keep all the results in memory simultaneously and works with non-random access ranges. So interestingly, yeah, we don't have our results saved. We did our computation, and that was basically every time here as we were doing pop front. As we're iterating through, we were getting the results here. So let's go ahead and see this here. And we're doing these 2 at a time here, okay? So if I time this, right, each of these is taking 1 second. This should be like 5 seconds of work here. And I say, of course, hey, we want to do this in parallel, so let's increase our work size. And this should be, we see these working in groups of 5. So every time that I pop front, that's implying that I need to run map and run multiply 2, because I need these results. I need what's in this range here to be computed. 5 elements at a time in this buffer here. Okay, and that's a lazy function. So it's a little bit magic in the sense that this line and this line are sort of connected to each other, right, when I'm doing the pop front. So that's how I get the execution to move forward, okay? Okay. Now, can we use the same trick here where I just do something like dot array, in fact, without my for each? Because what did dot array do? Well, that said I wanted to save the results. So, that kind of also does the trick as well, right? Because, again, it's saying I need all the results here, but I'm doing things in parallel, so that's kind of cool. So, the map function, if you just want to use it in parallel, that's the way you can think about it, okay? Okay, so that's map here. Let's see. Let's take a look at AMAP, which is the other one, which I don't know if that's, but basically this is a eager parallel map, which is kind of like, again, what we did with here, the array here. So the eagerness of this function means it has less overhead than the lazy evaluated task pool map and should be preferred when the memory requirements of eagerness are acceptable. Functions are the functions to be evaluated. So I can actually pass in multiple functions here. I just have multiple too. And then you can have a tuple or something to store the results, but let's just work with one for now. Okay, let's see. First argument must be a random access range. That's one difference from AMAP. For performance reasons, AMAP will assume the range elements have not yet been initialized. Elements will be overwritten without calling a destructor nor doing an assignment. As such, a range must not contain meaningful data. Okay, so anyways, so here's an example here. Let's just say we have a bunch of numbers and we want to compute the square roots here. This will do the eager evaluation for us. So let's kind of retool this example here. And let's say here's the parallel map function. Okay, and let's go ahead and just, let's comment this out again, just so we can have clean sort of profiles when we time this to see how long it takes. And let me get rid of this. Let's let's leave both of these variations here, just so if you want to look at it, you have it here. Actually, let's do it this way. Yep. Okay, and here we are. Okay, so now basically what we want to do here is just change map to a map here. Let's just see what happens if we run this here. I mean, let's see, is that all we needed to do? Actually, let me look at the arguments here. Do I have a buffer size here? No, let's just go ahead and run it. Run. Let me make sure we saved it here. That was kind of interesting. 5 seconds for this run here. What are these other magic arguments here? What if I get rid of it? Let's get rid of it here. Argument. I think it's a work size. We can dive into the function. But what's kind of neat? 1 second. I mean, so clearly it basically just tried to eagerly evaluate everything. And again, this time we actually store the results here. So it's kind of like what we were doing with .array. That's kind of how I think of map here. Just eagerly evaluate everything and put all the results here directly into results too. Okay, so kind of simpler to use. This is typically the one if I'm reaching for any map function, what I'm probably trying to do. But again, it just depends on if you're maybe like streaming in data or working with ranges, then you have map as an option there. So anyways, that should give you a look at this here. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, let's explain that second parameter. Same thing. Okay, this is the work unit size here. Work units as used by AMAP are identical to those defined for parallel for each. If no work unit size is provided, default size is used. Okay, I have 100 here. Okay. Okay, an output range for returning the results may be provided as the last argument. If one is not provided, an array of the proper type will be allocated in the garbage collected heap. Okay, yeah, so that's why we actually get our the result returned here as this array here. Okay, because that's the default here. Otherwise, we could provide as an argument. I think it's the last parameter here, as is shown in this function. Results. We could also just pass that in here, right? And you can see that's. We could either store it here in this array here. So if I have two functions, like doing the square root and the log, that's a nice example here. Here's the work unit size, here's the inputs, and then the results is basically a tuple of however big our numbers is storing the floats and the real values. Okay, so you can do some cool stuff there, which is quite nice. Okay, now the last thing that I'll mention here, just as a thing to think about here, is when you're working with map and threads, I mean, you'll notice we didn't get necessarily like 10 times performance here. One thing to be aware of is when you have multiple cores, I just want to mention this briefly. I've given full talks. Accessing data that's next to each other. So again, if I just highlight some adjacent elements like this, it's fine if we sort of do things in blocks, or basically our cache line is size is sort of the boundary. So if we have thread 1 accessing here and then thread 2 accessing here, that's actually kind of bad for performance because really what you want is thread 1 to access a few of these elements, usually 64 bytes, but I'm just going to illustrate by showing 2 blocks, and then thread 2 just accesses these like separate. So you will have to play around with some of these, the number of threads you have and how much work they have depending on the data that you're working on. Just keep that in mind. So you can look up this idea. I'll just write it here of false sharing, which can hurt your concurrency performance. And there's the point of using these primitives here, okay? And that's why there are additional parameters to toggle like the work unit size and so on. All right, so there you have it. We learned about parallel map and then the eager version here. I don't know if AMAP is supposed to explicitly stand for array map or something for the return, but maybe somebody can comment if they know the history or if they've read the Phobos docs more fully than I have on that. That would be interesting to see. So anyways, folks, as always, feel free to join the community at course.mshed.io. Thanks for your time and attention. I hope you enjoyed this one. This was a fun one to kind of work through some examples. And again, hopefully you're enjoying this concurrency series, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.